You can use it for questions as well. Our moderator asked me to tell you to use the questions section, but I believe we're going to monitor everything, so you can freely chat, say hello to each other, ask questions to our speakers. I guess I'll give everyone a couple of minutes and we'll start. Satish, Stefan, how do you do today? Well, I see people are still connecting, so I think we can chat before we formally start.
It's been great, Mike. I'm excited to be talking to you, Stefan. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to do a lot of talking today, right?
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah, I think it's almost lunchtime on this part of the ocean. Yes, and for some people, I think we had people from Singapore, so it could be really, really late for someone. Almost middle of the night, but definitely worth it. So I'll let people join, say hello, and we'll get started in a minute or two. By the way, I hope everyone can hear us well. I don't know how's the connection? Awesome, thanks. I really appreciate it's really weird, with webinars where you can hear the feedback, but we'll do our best.
There you go. There, thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think let's get started. This will be recorded and shared anyway. So first of all, I'm really, really excited to see everyone today. Thank you for joining. We are very excited about talking about this thing. With the explosion with Databricks taking over the market, by storm, we've seen the enormous amount of cases where people are trying to, while leveraging the Databricks or implementing Databricks, people are really trying to also integrate and what they had before. And one of the popular analytical platforms out there is SAS. So obviously, we've seen how these two systems come together. And at this moment of time, the technology is so far advanced that you can really embrace while embracing a Databricks. And I hope you do. If you don't, I hope you'll learn about it. You can finally integrate the two systems really tightly. All of your user base, different users can use both systems. And in order for you to show how it works, we have three awesome speakers today. We have Stefan from Raiffeisen Bank, who will, by the way, will be showing an awesome live demo. And I encourage you to make sure you will focus, because the demo is absolutely stunning. It's going to be like a real Databricks notebooks running some SAS and R. So stay. It's going to be somewhere, I think, in the middle towards the end of the webinar. We have Satish Garla from Databricks with us, and our own T1A is Oleg Mikhov. Our goal is to share what we've learned. You'll get all the materials, you'll get the code, everything after this webinar. So you don't need to, screenshot or don't fear. You'll get all of it. No paywall attached to that. And with that, I'll let our speakers introduce themselves. So Oleg, if you don't mind, let's start with you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Oleg Mikhov. I'm solution architect at T1A. We've been working with SaaS products and other data platforms for the last 8 years. So happy to be here, accompanied by amazing speakers and amazing audience. And basically, we're going to share some of our thoughts on how these two platforms should coexist. Thank you.
Thanks, Oleg. Hi. Hello, everyone. Satish Karla. I'm a solution architect at Databricks. I've been with Databricks for only a year, but before Databricks, I worked with SAS for almost like 8, 9 years. And given my experience with SAS, I help Databricks customers and SAS customers to better make use of the best of both worlds. And we talk to SAS customers every day, and these are some of our experiences that we want to share today about how you can leverage both these platforms in a more efficient manner. Very excited to be here with Stefan, Alok, and Mike.
Hello, everybody. As you also can see on the slide, my name is Stefan Baumann, located in Vienna and working for Raiffeisen Bank International. Why am I here? I mean, I'm a long-term SAS developer and SAS practitioner. I actually worked for SAS like 20 years ago around, and have 20 plus years experience in SAS programming. And have been in banking since like around 18 years, and will be now 15 years working for Raiffeisen Bank. You can already see the facts there. I think I don't have to repeat them. I'm located in the retail risk division. So we are only dealing with retail customers. And our function basically is to gather all the data from our network units that we have all around Middle and Eastern Europe, and make reports out of it, develop scorecards, and so on. Why do I now have to deal with Databricks? This is we. As you can see here, we have a lot of people on one hand in the head office, but also in our network banks, which have different kind of knowledge. A lot of SAS experts also, but also people developing in R and with Python knowledge. And this is why we have the need to bring them somehow together on a platform where we can use all of these different tools. So we really need to have an integration of these tools. On the other hand, we also would like to make our models better, and this we can do when we bring together data from different countries. Yeah, so bringing together the data, integrating the data in one platform also is an important task for us. And last but of course not least, also bringing the people together. So we would then expect also to have projects with people participating from different countries. Yeah, this would be also a very, very important thing. What we would like to achieve with Databricks. Yeah. So who's next?
Yeah, before we get started and talk about this integration, let's quickly brush some terminology and understand, what Databricks Lakehouse platform is, right? Again, the platform itself has been gaining large adoption as a standard for data architectures, and with the Lakehouse platform, you're able to have all your data like in one place in the cloud data lakes, whether it's like structured data or unstructured data. On top of that, using Delta Lake, you can bring reliability and extremely fast query performance to that data. And next, you could govern the data with one consistent model using Unity Catalog, right? On top of all this foundation, you have purpose-built tools to basically allow different users and different use cases, to better collaborate using the same data, right? Whether it's data engineering, data warehousing, or data science and ML, right? what the kind of advantages you would get with this platform is, first, you have dramatically simplified your data architecture for all your different workloads. And second, this whole platform is built on open source and open standards. This means you have more freedom to choose different options, and then also how you evolve your data strategy, right? And finally, you get one consistent experience across all clouds, which, like, the multi-cloud phenomena is becoming, being adopted very greatly as well. And you don't need to invest in, reinventing the same thing again and again for every cloud platform. Right? Now let's understand what a SaaS platform that we're talking about. Oleg, to you.
Okay, thank you, Satish. So we talked about Databricks house platform. Let's set the terminology for SaaS platform. So for the purpose of this webinar, we'd like to focus on SaaS 9 platform. And by SaaS 9 platform, we mean we're not integrating any particular business application such as SaaS Intelligent Decisioning or SaaS AML. We're integrating platform itself. And for sure, SaaSwire can provide, SaaSwire in your generation of SaaS 9 can provide some additional features. And it's probably worth another webinar where we can discuss methods for SaaSwire. But all methods that we're going to discuss are applicable not only for SaaS 9 platform, but for SaaSwire as well. And as I said, our approach is integrating platform itself, not any particular SaaS applications. But with this approach, you can reuse and expose this integration to your business applications as well. So we set the terminology for this webinar. Let's talk about case for coexistence that, in our opinion, are most important. Satish, over to you.
Sure. So from what we have seen, these are 4 different categories, that's driving this coexistence for both the platforms, and mainly, the mixed user base being the most common one, because organizations, they're looking to support users with different programming skills, whether Python programmers, using SAS language, or using R programmers, and also a majority of SQL programming, SQL user base, right? They want to have a better platform that can support collaboration between these users, and that's one reason why they're looking for something that can bring together both the Databricks and SAS to cover these different use cases. The second one is the regulatory restrictions. In heavily regulated industries, they have a very deep experience in connection with SAS, especially SAS models and algorithms. These models and algorithms are validated for for a number of years now, and being largely approved, right? And organizations, they want to continue to leverage that investment. The third one is large-scale data processing, and as we all know, big data is landing in the cloud, and all the SaaS users, they want to access this data, and they want to have access to larger computing capacity, meaning they want to leverage Spark, they want to leverage distributed computing capabilities, to make large stable joins in the cloud, and without having to move all that data in a granular manner to SaaS and then do it in SaaS, but they want to leverage the cloud infrastructure and do those heavy joins there, and then get the more aggregated relevant data for further processing in SaaS. And the last one is a transition state during migration, because there are certain workloads which are more apt for the cloud environment. And SaaS communities, they are modernizing those workloads. And in that transition to the cloud, it goes through a gradual process. And in the interim, they're looking at supporting those business critical workloads by leveraging just the data that's already moved to the cloud, but run the processes on the SaaS side. So Stefan, where do you think is RBI leading in terms of these patterns?
Satish, I would say we actually have, for us, all of these cases would apply. Yeah. The first one, I already mentioned. We already have a lot of modeling experts with domain knowledge in different tools, different languages. Then, as you all know, the banking industry is highly regulated, and especially the models always are also audited by regulators, and you have to you have to have a very good documentation, for which also these notebooks are very good, because you have the code and you can have code and documentation together. And having SAS then in there is then also a big topic. Large-scale data processing, I would say, in a way, I mean, we don't have really massive amounts of data, but still we have around 10 million credit accounts where we have to do we have to build models on, and we also need for our models very long time horizons, like 5 or 10 years, and this is then adding up if you have also to keep this whole history. Yeah? And it's also very as we have a large network of network units, we also have to always bring together data from a lot of sources, which also makes it more complex. And then for number 4, this is for sure also a reason that you find that nowadays, like the young people, like junior modelers, which come from university, they mostly have the Python or R knowledge, and you probably then also want to bring them in, and maybe when you have to redevelop a model, you then might choose R and Python instead of SAS. Yeah, so migration is for sure also a topic. Thanks.
Sure. Oleg, what do you think? What other things are you seeing?
Yeah, so like from our experience at SAS, there is like one more additional case. Some companies already switched to Databricks for all day-to-day activities, but they still have a huge amount of code and SAS jobs sitting around. And due to some like policies or just like financial state, they're not ready to take a risk of migrating this SAS code like in Databricks. So they're sitting like on 2 platforms for a while. So like we defined the cases why coexistence is important, but how it needs to be set up in order to support not only like one particular case that we listed, but all of them. So by coexistence, we means, and coexistence relies on 2 major pillars. It's like shared data and integrated workflows. Before we move on, let's take a brief look into architecture. So here we have like a Databricks platform sitting on Delta Lake, as well as we have SAS platform with like some kind of SAS applications and SAS Express Miner and base SAS code around. And all like both platforms are connected to some sources. They might be like some historical sources, some newer sources, and what we're trying to achieve, a state where data between both platforms are shared, and it means that Databricks can access all SAS data sources, and SAS can access all Databricks data sets, as well as you can build like some kind of complex workflows that can start in Databricks, and then Databricks calls some action in SAS, and so on. So let's take a deeper look on shared data. So what we mean by shared data is we'd like to call it bi-directional data sharing. So as I was saying, like we want SAS to be able to read and write data from Databricks, and we want Databricks to be able to read and write data from SAS, as well to any data sources that are connected to SAS. So for example, if you have like lib statement or library that is connected to Oracle, you can expose through lib statement to Databricks. And this approach unveils many benefits. So first of all, you can leverage Databricks truly scalable features. So for example, you can process larger data sets in Databricks environment, and don't be afraid to interfere other ongoing computations in SAS. And the result of these computations can be pulled back to SAS for further processing. And that is something that we see pretty usual when like SAS platform sometimes can experience lack of resources, especially during peak hours. So the second benefit is that, which is my favorite actually. So whenever you implement a data platform, like new data platform, it usually comes with additional cost of data enablement. So you need to reestablish your ETLs for a new platform, and that it's time-consuming, money-consuming, etc., etc. So with this approach, once you set up Databricks, you can integrate it with SAS, and you can immediately get access to like many data sets that already sit on SAS. So that means like on the first day you install Databricks, on the second day you integrate it with SAS. So by the end of the second day, you can start do your analysis using Databricks and using your SAS data sources. So the other benefit is, like with this approach, you minimize your operational costs. You don't need to develop like two set of ETL flows for each platform. You can like develop it once, and through this bidirectional data sharing, you can expose it for other platform. And for sure, like this approach empowers your analysts and data engineers with the right to decide which platforms they want to use. And like for some cases, they prefer to use SAS code. For some cases, they prefer to use Python in Databricks. And they can do, because like, again, all data sources that, like your data sources basically are available from SAS and Databricks. And for sure, like regulatory-friendly approach, Satish, can you elaborate a bit more how data sharing can help with regulatory restrictions?
Yeah, so definitely, if you look at the regulatory expectations, what they care about is governance and process lineage. Especially with things like Unity Catalog on Databricks, you could have the governance for like data models and have version controls on your code, right? And you'll be able to easily reproduce the analysis, which is again a big requirement from the regulatory side. On top of that, again, it goes back to developing better models, like using alternative data from like social media, cloud, directly pulling data from cloud applications, having access to more granular data, building models at like more granular level. And additionally, you could now build more challenger models using ML techniques, so that and then compare them with your SAS models. That gives more opportunity to make sure you're building the best models, and that will add to your submissions, regulatory submissions. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Satish. So like we recently did a blog jointly with Databricks, where we evaluated some of methods on how data can be how data can be shared between SAS and Databricks. More details are available in the blog, and based on our benchmarks, like the best results showed like SAS interface to DBC, like the built-in into SAS a method on how like Databricks data can be exposed to SAS. And if we talk about like other direction approach, when Databricks needs to read data from SAS, we found that Spark SAS7b library, Python library, shows the best result. So please feel free to see more details in our blog post. The link available in the presentation, and you will get this presentation as in a follow-up email to this webinar. As well as a part of the blog, we also developed so-called like decision tree. In the decision tree, we evaluated existing methods on how data can be shared, and we like basically this tree can help you to identify which method you should use. So we talk about like bidirectional data sharing. Let's talk about like integrated workflows. So when we talk about integrated workflows, we list 3 categories. So like ad hoc analytics, data pipelines for like data engineering tasks, and machine learning. And here we'd like to start with ad hoc analytics, and with Stefan's demo, how ad hoc analytics tasks can be done with a combination of SAS and Databricks. Yeah, over to you, Stefan.
Okay. So here we have the once again a little bit to why this is important for us again, because we have these modelers with different expertise, and we also would like to collaborate in one notebook. So it is essential that you can have all the languages in it. Okay, so for the demo, I will now share my screen. I hope you can see it now.
Yeah.
So the whole demo I put to a GitHub repository that you can all access. I think the link is also will also be in the slides. And I prepared two notebooks. One is called Classic Cars. It shows the application of these different analytical tools but very simple ones in SAS, Python, and R, and also the transfer between the respective environments. And for this, I use two well-known datasets. For once, the SAS help class dataset, and from R, the empty cars data frame. And I've also, if I have some time, I have prepared a second notebook, which a little bit goes around if SAS can show the Unicode characters correctly, which I think from my experience was a little bit problem in the past. Okay, so let's start. So the first, what I want to do is to start a SAS session and then work a little bit with it. Yeah, I will just, the first thing I want to show here is the configuration that we use. Here you can also have you can use the SAS.py, the SAS.py documentation for more details there. And here I'm just taking a shell command and showing show once more the configuration. So everything is running now. This is how you would connect. And there's one caveat. We had to redefine a function in SAS.py because it was somehow it had a wrong scope. So we had to redefine it here on the top level. And here you can, in the next cell, you can see where this where the place in the SAS.py library where this stuff is defined. But with this now, you can basically submit SAS code. And here there's this the SAS session object on which you can just with the method submit list, you can just submit some SAS code. Let's try and start with see the contents of the SAS help class dataset. Here it is. If people have worked with SAS, they probably know this dataset because it's often used for testing something or showing some stuff. The SAS.py also has convenience functions. So you don't always have to write code. You can call methods directly on some SAS objects. Here is I first connect the SAS help class dataset to a Python object, which refers to the SAS data, and then call two methods on it. And as you can see here, we first get a description, and then we get the histogram. So first the describe, which a little bit resembles the pandas look of the describe command, and then the histogram for this asset, for the height variable. And the interesting thing is all these convenience methods, you can look what is behind those methods. Yeah. So there's a kind of a flag, teach me SAS, which you can put to 1, and then it will not execute the command, but it will just show what kind of data is behind it. So you can see what is implemented there. So the next ones I will go quickly over. This is now more some Databricks stuff where I first create a database if it not exists, or I'm dropping the table if it's already there. Then here is the syntax for, okay, I put the password and server into widgets, and then just submit a library statement, and eventually I can create the table in this Spark cluster, and then I can again run a job, but this time again in Databricks, and I can see here. This is again this is now not the SAS table, but the one which is stored in this Spark cluster, and then also using this using the plot functionality in Databricks, and also putting a histogram, I can resemble the histogram that we saw from SAS above. Interesting also that the table is automatically stored as a delta table, and it's as a so-called managed data table. So it's not it's a kind of an area in the Databricks file system where the data behind the Parquet files are automatically stored. We also have the possibility to directly transfer the class to a pandas data frame, not going through the Spark cluster. And then we can we have it in Python basically, and we can use any of the Python libraries for analyzing, visualizing it. And here I created a linear model plot with the Seaborn library. Again, I can also now store it in the Spark cluster, this time from the pandas data frame, so also works. So basically from all kinds of directions, the transfer and communication is possible. This time I'm using a explicit safe path, which gives us if you describe the table, which gives us a type of external, because we have our so-called external safe location. Okay, now let's switch to R. We can create the data frame in R. We just load it from the Spark cluster, and I mean this is the same data set that we have seen before. And I mean, what R is good for is to do some statistical models with it, and I just used a simple linear model with it, and I'm trying to model the height with weight. No, I model the weight with height and the sex of the person. By the way, already from this we can see that the sex should not be should be so strongly influence the result. And we can see also in the output, we can see this, the height is very significant, and the sex is not really significant. Okay, now let's come to the next one. So we are already in R. Now let's take an R data set, and then first look at it in R, and then also use it in SAS. So first just display the data frame. It's about some cars from the 70s with information about how much gas it needs, like this miles per gallon, cylinders, what will we also use, the horsepower, the weight, and transmission mode, like automatic or manual. Just have to get a quick sip. This time I will also do I will create an extra training and test sample. Call it MTC train, MTC test. Build also a model, but only on the training sample. And then I can show like before. You can see that the main influence is coming from the horsepower. I mean, we are modeling miles per gallon by the weight, horsepower, and automatic or manual. And so if you have automatic gear or manual, seems to have not a big significance. And the other ones, like the horsepower, weight a little bit more, and the horsepower is pretty significant. And with this with this model, we can now predict the miles per gallon on the test data set. We can create actuals versus predictions, and then get an R squared of the test data, which we can see down here. This is pretty also pretty significant in the test data here. I mean, this is all only toy data. This is clear, but it's just for showing it. And also calculating the residuals, and then if I display this data frame, I can also have a small bar chart of these residuals. So now that we can use it in SAS, we will first again we have to put it to the Spark cluster. So we take them all. We take the whole data set, MTC all, the training, and the test data set. First, again, a small visualization. Let's show miles per gallon against cylinders. Maybe let's run this once more.
What I can definitely see is that 8 cylinders is only present in on this side of the ocean, right? Definitely not Euro 5 standard anymore.
So,
won't make a cut.
So how are we with the time, by the way?
Yeah, I think we like a couple minutes. I hope you could have showed there's a second one, but again for the audience, it's actually a lot, and I really encourage you to go and check out Stefan's repo. So it shows like basically all the directions, everything that we were talking today, almost everything except some integrations with MLflow, and that Oleg will be talking, and Satish in a minute. But yeah, I really encourage you. It's all open, so feel free to play around.
Then let's just finish it up by showing that in SAS we can do the same kind of regression, and we see that the output. So SAS is it exists for a long time, and they have a lot more information in the output also. And what I'm finally doing is that I'm also scoring the test sample with SAS, creating a score code, and then also getting the score code into the Python side and displaying it here. These are basically the final stuff, yeah. And the other one would also be interesting, but I think we are now lacking of time. So I mean, if we maybe have some time at the end of the session, I could still show this.
Yeah, and okay, we'll see. We have quite a lot of questions, so I wanted to get to the Q&A session. So let's go back to the presentation. We walk through the ad hoc. Thank you, Stefan. Again, thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks. And let's talk about ETL just a bit. Oleg, please.
Yeah, so like, thank you, Stefan, again. So like, code sample will be available on Stefan's GitHub. So the link will be shared as a part of this presentation. So we saw how source code can be integrated into Databricks notebook and how it can be used for ad hoc analysis. But what about like data engineering jobs? So usually when we see like SAS as a data platform, it has like some kind of SAS ETLs that are sitting around. And what if you want to combine in a single ETL like SAS tasks alongside with Databricks tasks and like join them as a part of single ETL job. For sure that can be done, and there are like different ways how it can be done. And similar to how Stefan showed with SASPy, there are like some additional ways how it can be done, and for sure you can use like different workflows. So for example, in here on this slide, we have an example where we're using Databricks workflow, like a simple workflow manager that is built in Databricks. For sure, you can use a new version, a new addition to Databricks workflow called Delta Live Tables. It has some additional built-in features for ETL, and it also can be used in a way that you have like some tasks on SAS alongside with tasks in Databricks, and you can combine them. So Satish, can you name maybe a few features of Delta Live Tables that help with ETL development and operations?
Yeah, sure. Oleg. I mean, from a DLT perspective, it's a new addition to Databricks stack for to support ETL. Again, like data engineers even today spend a lot more of their time in defining and writing code to manage the full ETL life cycle, like handling dependencies, like table dependencies, working on recoveries, backfilling, retrying the ETLs, or working through error conditions. Right, so they spend more time on the other things, but not on the transformations and then the business logic that they should be focused on, right? But using DLT, now you could declaratively just build an SQL. You write your SQL queries, and you focus on what to do, and then forget about how to do it. And DLT can automatically look at the relationships and then come up with a lineage diagram for you to track and then monitor the ETL. But underlying, this is a managed service for ETL. It will automatically manage your infrastructure, can spin up the right clusters that is needed to run the job, and it can automatically handle the errors and recovers from any failures. And you, with the similar kind of approach, you can work with both streaming and batch type of workloads, and it supports both SQL and then Python programming. So there's an inbuilt data quality management and monitoring feature by using expectations. Now you could track some of the errors or data quality issues at each record level. And like I said, you can visualize using a data lineage diagram that's automatically generated, showcasing the table dependencies. Essentially, accelerating your ETL development life cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Satish. So, and for sure, you can use like your favorite workflow manager. So here's an example of where we use an Airflow, like, and we are combining like Databricks tasks with SAS tasks. And by the way, Databricks recently released a newer version of Databricks operators for Airflow. So come check this new version of Airflows. So we talked about like.
Yeah, and I just want to say there was a question in the audience about this, about integrating. Can we integrate this as an ML flow? So I think, Oleg, you're answering one of the.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll answer that. So we talked about like ad hoc analytics, how it can be done, like using combination of SAS code alongside with Databricks code, and like SAS datasets alongside with Databricks datasets. We briefly talked about like how you can leverage the same approach for data engineering, like where you have like complex multi-step workflow where several steps are SAS and several steps are Databricks. But Databricks is not just like data platform, it comes with some additional features for machine learning. Like for example, it has built-in ML ops, it's really good with ML flow, etc., etc. So all of these features can be leveraged with like this coexistence approach. So first of all, using the same approach, you can build ML pipelines, ML flows, where you can, like, for example, do data prep in Databricks and then use SAS model, and vice versa, depends on your needs. As well as you can utilize all ML ops features that are built in Databricks for your SAS models. So, for example, you can store your SAS model in a model repository inside Databricks. You can run different experiments, trying experimenting with different variables and parameters, and then like log result of experiments, and then based on that decide which version you should use. You can leverage feature store and all of this. So like basically for MLOps, you can store your Databricks models alongside with your SAS models, and like have this kind of single point for all your models inside Databricks. Yeah, and Stefan, like, where do you see in general or in RBI how this feature can be leveraged, where you can store all models inside Databricks?
Yeah, this is I mean, this is very useful, especially when it comes to the like audits from the regulator, because although you have these the data tables with all this versioning and so on, I mean, it might always happen that you have some individual mistake and something gets deleted or so. And if you then additionally have the data set which was created for, or which was used for creating the model, if you can store that alongside the model, this is of a great value, I would say.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. So again, like an example on how, like here's like we have an example on simple regression and how like SAS simple regression can be built in MLOps repository, and as well as how we can like store like root square metrics from this model in MLOps repository. It's available in our GitHub. So again, we talked about how and why you need to establish like bidirectional data sharing between like SAS and Databricks, and we show that you can build like complex workflows for ad hoc analysis, data engineering, and machine learning. So I think that's pretty much it from our side. Mike, do we have like any questions? We cannot hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, Mike. Yeah, try now.
You're on mute now.
Yeah, it says you're on mute now. But yeah, just there were a couple of questions, I think, around same, ML flow, but then there's also just looking at the question window, and there's a question that says, what's the advantage of connecting SAS via integrating SAS via with Databricks, right?
Yeah, so compared to what we discussed today, SASVI provides some additional benefits. So first of all, SASVI itself, like the new version of SASVI allows you to write Python code directly and execute in SASVI. So with that being said, like you might not longer need this SASPy integration between like SASVI and Databricks, as well as, for example, what you can do for bidirectional data sharing. You can read data directly into in-memory storage in SASVI, like for your further processing. It's like really will speed up your computations. There are some other features, but like the major two are those.
Yeah, like I think like what you described, the ML flow itself is an answer, like integration of ML flow, and then able to manage your models, because your data is now sitting in the cloud, being managed by Databricks, and then governed and tracked in Databricks and Delta. And with that comes, there are teams who are actually running models directly in Databricks as well, and they're like specialized models that you want to build in SAS via. And also SAS has a lot of industry specific solutions which are really which you want to integrate with Databricks to read the data from, right? I think there's this definitely few areas that can significantly benefit with this integration.
I think I'm back. Am I?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Sorry, technology. Not all the technology is as good as Databricks. It was a paid advertising. Well, anyway, I promised to ask a couple of questions. A really interesting one, interesting to me, and I wanted to ask Stefan actually. It was a question: how do you train people to use Databricks? And let me actually read it exactly as it was. How would you train analyst developers working with like former SaaS, like you are or like a SaaS developer for many years? So how was it? How do you train your people to use Databricks?
I mean, I think you just have to get somehow acquainted with this notebook style of working, in my opinion. Yeah, it's because anyhow you could still have access to the platform, to the pure SaaS platform, right? So you could actually also develop your SaaS code there, and then just somehow include it in Databricks. Yeah, this would also be possible. I've showed in the end of my demo. I also showed that you can also exchange code between the two sides. Yeah? I think I also saw something in the question how to curate the SAS code that you use. I mean, I think you could still just copy it over to the Databricks platform and then store it as an artifact to the model. Yeah? This would still be possible. But I mean, the training would just be to, I don't know, just to practice in using these notebooks. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
There was a question
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
SaaS.
can I add? Yeah, so
Yeah,
like,
go ahead. Sure.
yeah, like a while ago, I saw like another article on Databricks blog about like introducing Spark programming for SaaS developers. So there's like another blog, like just to start your journey with Python and Databricks, like for your SaaS developers. There is another blog. I'll probably try to find a link and post in the chat. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and there was a question about whether SaaSPy supports all of the basically all of the SAS code. I don't know if it's a appropriate question. Maybe Stefan, what's your experience? We actually have a SAS. I see someone from SAS is answering, so maybe the better target is to ask SAS folks. I can say from our experience, at least what it definitely covers everything that is needed to enable data integration and enable running models or running just basically open code in the systems.
I mean, you can run any SAS code. You can run any SAS code there. Yeah, this is the I mean, this if you want to if you want to have somebody from who is more a Python programmer and doesn't know so much about SAS, and he would more use these convenience methods, yeah, then he would probably at some point a little bit get into trouble. So he would have to learn a little bit of SAS if he would like to go further, yeah. And this is probably why they put this teach me SAS feature into the SaaSPy, I imagine. Thanks.
Let's see. So the question is it worth to purchase the SAS to Databricks connector or ODBC connector is enough?
I can answer that, Mike. Yeah, I think that the SAS to Databricks connectors, depending on the Spark cluster, is definitely has some good value in it, in the sense you could push down some queries, and then you could but there's some you could push down the SQL processing plus some of the procedures. But then there are some challenges that when you start working with large amounts of data, then you could probably look at some of the other options as well. That's what we've been working with SAS and then helping them to make some modifications. But compared to ODBC way of connecting, there are some additional advantages that you would get to really process your code on the Databricks cluster rather than bringing the data over to SAS.
Thanks. And we're actually almost at the top of an hour. I wanted to ask one technical question because it was asked. So again, you will get a follow-up. Please look for your, I don't know, spam, hopefully not a spam, but you'll get a follow-up. The presentation will be shared. The presentation has all the links. I haven't showed this slide, but it does. And the recording will also be shared. So fear not, share internally with your colleagues or whoever wants to listen to that. But again, everything is shared. We're not hiding anything. All of the code, all of the samples are open, and including the benchmarks for what Satish was talking about. Oleg and Satish worked on benchmarking different ways to move data between and Databricks. We didn't have time to talk about it in details today, but there is a whole actually pretty long blog post with benchmarks and even a decision tree, as Oleg said, how actually we choose depending on a use case. So I answered, I don't know, Oleg, Satish, Stefan, if you want to answer some of the questions from, oh yeah, there's a question whether this bidirectional integration is something that T1A brings in. So the answer is, I guess, 98% no. SAS2Pi is actually an official set use.
SAS2Pi.
SAS2Pi, sorry, SAS2Pi package. There are some caveats about how to set this up so it will be very convenient with some access, etc. So there are some guidelines how to do that, but in general you can replicate all of it. So what we do is more like, usually we help to customize it to your preference, but all of this technology is open, so you don't have to go to T1A necessarily, but you can ask how to do that. We're happy to help. There were a couple questions about integrating the applications. There was a question about SAS BI on the cloud, this version from SAS DI, SAS ID. So I answered to the best of my abilities. I know Oleg, Satish, maybe Stefan, if you want to add something about how this translates to, how this integration on the platform level translates to the integration of applications, I guess this would be helpful.
Yeah, so like when talk about applications, most of them are working with SAS libraries. So like most of them, like you need to define like lib statement in your metadata where you have like SAS lib statement for data. So with like our bidirectional data sharing, you have like ability to create like library that is pointing to Databricks data sets, or like to Databricks schema in particular. So for most applications where we are like having some kind of data, for example, for like SAS-staggered decisioning, and where you want to enrich your request with some data from Databricks, or you want to like pull some data from Databricks, you just need to like create SAS libraries that points to Databricks using, for example, ODBC connector, and from that you can like move on with this integration. The other thing is, like, for example, for SAS DI jobs, where you want to like incorporate as a part of your complex SAS DI job, like Databricks task, it's slightly like, it's different because like we're not talking about like only data sharing, we're talking about like control and workflow, but that also can be done. So basically, you can add in SAS DI, you can like add a step where you have like SAS code that is calling like through API that is calling like corresponding Databricks notebook, just as an example.
Thanks. So I guess we're almost done. I really thank you so much for our speakers, Stefan. Thank you for the demo. Thank you, Satish. Thank you, Alex. Thanks to everyone who came. This is a wrap up. Wait for a follow up and probably follow up webinars. Really curious to hear your feedback. Send us questions. You can reply to emails or actually reply to the LinkedIn invitation. So please don't hesitate. Happy to answer the questions. Have a great day for someone, evening, night. Hope to see you soon. Stay safe.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Everyone, thank you so much for attending.